How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Today I get to sit down with Cameron Chell, the CEO and founder of Dragonfly, which is a drone company based in Canada. This is a really interesting company because it's been around for a very long time, just recently went public. They're scaling up like crazy in an industry that's going to grow massively over the coming years, and who the governments have recently started to allow drones to actually be flown a little bit more and are moving faster in the regulatory process of drones. So it's making it a lot easier for people to be able to get drones in the air, making the industry move a lot faster as well. This is a super interesting conversation that we have coming up here. And I've already talked with them before. It was a fantastic half-hour conversation on where they're at, how they're helping the world, where they're selling their products, how they're going to hit profitability, and what their drones can actually do. This is so interesting. I want to play it for you here. If you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn that bell notification. This is a partner of the channel, so always do your own due diligence. There are links to them underneath the video. All right, everyone. We have with us on the channel here today, Cameron Chell. Cameron, thanks so much for coming on. Can you?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think you can tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Dragonfly?
Sure. So I'm a 30-year tech entrepreneur. Started off in the late '90s. Built a cloud computing company. It wasn't called cloud computing back then, but built a cloud computing company, and we did a micro cap financing, and grew it up to about a $3.5 billion market cap and such, and then worked in the aerospace industry as well. Built a company that designed, built, and installed cameras for the outside of the International Space Station, and that company went public. We had an okay little exit there as well, and then Dragonfly, which I'm lucky enough to have been a part of now for close to 15 years. I'm the CEO of, is the oldest commercial drone manufacturer in the world. And so we've got an incredible depth of experience and bench strength, and have kind of seen it all in the drone space. So that's a little bit about myself and my background as it led into getting to be a part of the leadership team here at Dragonfly.
Awesome. So at Dragonfly, you're obviously predominantly a drone company. Can you tell me a little bit more about maybe who you're selling drones to, what you guys are trying to deliver on as a brand, and then what some of the capabilities are of these
Yeah,
drones?
sounds great. So I think it's maybe a little bit of context about the North American drone industry. Every North American drone manufacturer that's come to market has gone out of business, except for Dragonfly. And the reason that is that there's this incredible potential in the commercial drone space, but there hasn't been regulation in the drone space that's allowed for commercial drones to be able to function in a commercial airspace. And it's a highly complex set of tasks and problems to solve, and it's taken about 15 years for that to happen. And so when we think about companies like Airware, Air Lily, 3DR, GoPro, the list goes on. These are all companies that had hundreds of millions of dollars put into them each, by really big VCs and private equity firms. All of which, every one of those companies has tried to buy Dragonfly at one time or another, and a couple times, in fact. And we ended up never selling to them, primarily because we just didn't feel they had an understanding of where the commercial market was going to go and how long it was going to take to get there. So each of these companies, ramped up production, came out with a great product, and realized, they couldn't fly it commercially, and there wasn't a market. Lots of interest, but a pipeline company couldn't buy their drone and fly it because there wasn't regulation for how to do it, and it just didn't make sense. It was just early, so they all moved down into that prosumer and consumer space where great companies like like the DJIs of the world, the Audtels, the Chinese manufacturers just completely ate their lunch. So how we have survived as a company, really as a North American drone manufacturer over the years, is two ways. One, we do military, contract engineering work, for the likes of Aero Environments. They've been a great customer over the years, as an example. And that's really allowed our engineers to get incredible experience in the drone space, which is totally applicable, highly, well above the technical requirements, but really totally applicable to the commercial space. And then the other areas that we focused on actually selling into public safety. So the first drone we ever sold was to a federal police department that actually was doing accident reconstruction and then forensics investigation. And then eventually they ended up using it a little bit more by chance for a search and rescue operation. And so a Dragonfly or drone became the first drone that ever saved a human life. And today that drone sits on permanent display in the Smithsonian. And so kind of just by that set of circumstances, we've really just been selling our drones not only into public safety, but primarily into public safety. So Sheriff's Department, U.S. Marshals, Homeland, Border Patrol, search and rescue type scenarios. And those buyers, there's a smaller component of that market that is really kind of dedicated to buying a U.S. made product. And so that's who we catered to, and we're able to survive and grow that. Now, since that time, the key regulation in the industry, which kind of generally referred to as BV-LOS, beyond visual line of sight, is really what allows the commercial market to scale. So today, if I go and I wanted to do a pipeline inspection for an oil and gas company, or a power line inspection for a utility company, I would have to, or 3 years ago, I'd have to get in my truck, take out my drone, put it up in the air, fly a section of the pipeline or the power line, and then bring it back to my truck, and then go move another kilometer and then do the same thing. So it's not, there's still ROI there, but it's not incredibly efficient. It's still better than putting people up poles, or having somebody walk the pipeline with corrosion testing material and stuff we can all do from a drone. But the scale wasn't quite there yet. What BV-LOS is allowing the commercial market to do, as the regulations are now unfolding, is I could be in St. Paul sitting in a network operations center, and I could be doing a pipeline inspection using a drone that's in Texas or Pennsylvania or whatever the case may be. And that's where the real scale is happening and starting to emerge into the market. So those are the sophisticated type systems that we're now building out and starting to deploy. So that's on the kind of commercial survey mapping side. Excuse me. We also do, the drone as a first responder market is really starting to expand in the United States. So what that means is a 911 call comes in, and the first thing that happens right now is trucks roll to the scene. Well, in some locations, and over the last 2 years under testing and FAA observation, drones fly at that same time. Drones get there 12 to 15 minutes sooner. They're able to provide operational oversight to the situation. They're able to, indicate if there's traffic issues. They're able to indicate if it's a false alarm. 20% of the time it is a false alarm. So immediately those trucks are getting turned around, right? So you've got resource allocation, optimization happening. So it immediately pays for itself. But you've also got a scenario where you've got two-way communication. You can let, hey, do we need different resources? Do we need, police backup? Is it a violent situation? Hey, is there somebody down on the ground that already has medical capability? Do we need to fly in another drone that can get there quicker than the trucks are going to get there, that has an AED or an EpiPen or those types of things? And so we're doing a bunch of that. The search and rescue is, completely changing. Drones are changing search and rescue, immensely. So those are all ag, in terms of sensors and hyperspectral cameras that can measure nitrogen and moisture content, carbon footprints, and all, methane detection, LiDAR to do forestry count reserves. Just the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And I know this is a long answer, but really the big area that's completely exploded is no pun intended, is the military side of things.
Sure.
So air dominance in the military side of things is now proved out by Ukraine is 100%, not 100%, but it's air dominance from 5,000 feet down is all about small drones. And so we're now seeing that market completely open up to North American manufacturers, of which there's only a couple that can meet the demand. And so those are the primary areas that we're focused on.
Interesting. So how does regulation, how is it set out? You said commercial, it's very difficult to run packages. I think we have talked in the past about that. It's really difficult to do that. But for first responders, it's you can get information ahead of time, or you can get approval ahead of time so that you can run specific routes from a police station.
So, the delivery market, and when a lot of people think about the delivery market for drones, they're thinking about, getting your Starbucks coffee or your Pizza Hut or something from Amazon.
Yeah.
that regulation is going to continue to take some time to unfold. And then there's going to be a whole adoption of really do consumers want these drones flying through their neighborhoods and stuff like that. There's a lot there to do. A very big potential market out there. But so where we're more focused on are things like medical delivery, drone as a first responder. We've got a big initiative coming up with a very, very large medical organization to deliver pharmaceuticals, vaccines, blood, those types of things in temperature managed boxes for critical scenarios. Mm-hmm. And that type of stuff you can get waivers for and or set up your routes. Things like the FAA are much more apt to let those things occur first, as opposed to, necessarily you and I getting our Starbucks coffee. So that's where we're focusing our time. And it's proving out that that's the market that will unfold first.
That makes sense. You're actually saving lives as opposed to just saving a couple minutes off of a trip or something, getting a coffee. Interesting. So obviously you talked a little bit about Ukraine there. Obviously there's the Israel situation too. How do you see yourself kind of playing a part in all these unfolding conflicts? Obviously you said you're selling some to the government. Is there anything else you can hit on in that respect?
Yeah, so I mean, something that's really important to note is that the drone capabilities are so immense that nothing collects data better than a drone. So when you put a drone up in the air, you in a matter of minutes you can map underground, utilities, measure traffic patterns, take environmental readings, right down to things like carbon or bee pollen in the air or noxious gases or you'd imagine, right? Like, you can map things to millimeters worth of, within a millimeter of accuracy, and and the list goes on and on. So it's important that the organizations that are using those drones absolutely are ensured they're reliable and they're secure. They're secure, from a corporate standpoint. They know that the people that are producing them have the right clearances and bondage and ISO certifications, and they're secure from a cyber standpoint because the data that they're collecting or utilizing, isn't at risk. And so, in order for that to happen, that's probably the biggest reason that we see the drone market re-domesticating, right? Mm-hmm. So it's coming into, so the U.S. government needs to know that that is a U.S. drone. It's certified in every aspect. There's no risk involved in being used, from a corporate standpoint, right through to, a cybersecurity standpoint for the data in the field. And so, that's really important. So as a long-standing North American manufacturer, that can sell into these organizations and have, the right clearances and such, if you will, then that's really important for them. So first of all, that allows us to sell into those markets. The use cases that we're seeing in things like Ukraine range anything from, medical delivery, blood in the battlefield, right through to, autonomous delivery of blood, in certain situations, right through to, of course, ordnance being utilized and dropped, and drones being an offensive tool, through to mapping, surveillance, spotting, those types of things, right through to, the beginning of the Ukraine conflict. We're using our medical relief drone. Was flying insulin into besieged areas, right? Because they couldn't get ambulances in because all the roads were blocked and such. So demining is a very big aspect that drones will have a huge impact, are already now, but will have a massive impact on going forward, where you can actually, map out anomalies and collect incredible amount of data before you start sending your deminers out into the field, so they can strategize about, what area to tackle first or what area to totally avoid. Or, what are they just missing out there? And that might be everything from actually detecting the mine to actually detecting, okay, where has foliage been, displaced, or where are their paths? Or actually one really key indicator is looking at the paths that animals make in the field, right? Animals have, this extra sensors that enable them to, either smell certain things or see certain things, or or hear certain, they just know to avoid in the past to walk around the lines. But you don't really see that unless you get a bird's eye view. So it's a simple camera, but it's huge, incredible data that's provided to demining crews. So the use cases are just completely limitless.
You recently went public. This is after the company was private for many years. Can you maybe hit on why you decided that was the right path forward right now?
Yeah, well, so we've been private for 20 plus years at the time, and and we just didn't see the scale in the market up until that time. But with BD loss in particular coming into play, and keep in mind this is before Ukraine, right? So just before Ukraine. What we saw was the commercial market opening up. So BD loss, regulations started to open up, and because we've had hundreds of customers, not just public safety customers, but hundreds and hundreds of other customers, from 25 years past, who all have drone experience. They were all like, wait a minute, BD loss is coming. We now need to start to implement these plans that we wanted to do to be able to provide better service for our power lines or our oil and gas lines or whatever the case is. And so we saw demand. Like we just all of a sudden, it went from, me and a few salespeople, hitting the phones every day, looking for customers to where I haven't done an outbound call now for years. And so that was the first indicator. And then we saw the value. Then we had a whole bunch of people showing up, wanting to put money into us, a bunch of people wanting to buy the company again, that type of stuff. And so we saw this as the real first indicator that this industry was going to scale. Now the valuations were really impressive at that time. So we did a crowdfunding round, and then we did a go public round in order to scale the business. And it's taken us a couple of years and the scale of the industry. The regulations have been slower again, right? Even slower than we anticipated this time. But then the other advent is just basically, the military side of things and what's been proven out in Ukraine. So the demand is much higher than we ever expected. But I think because it's taken longer than the investing market had anticipated, we've seen those valuations come down significantly again. But it's way beyond what our expectations were in terms of what we'll be now fulfilling.
That's great for the company. Okay, so I see you guys as one of the predominant players, obviously, in the drone industry. Can you tell me where you see drones being useful, maybe 5 or 10 years down the line, when some of this regulation comes in, and then also how your company fits into that vision?
Yeah. So, 5 years from now, there will hardly be a 911 call that won't have a drone accompanied with it. There won't be a power line inspection that won't be done by a drone or a pipeline inspection. Wildfire, we flew our first substantive wildfire missions. They were up in Canada where they had over 300 wildfires burning at one time. So we were flying missions up there that were really more about doing observations, nighttime missions, using thermals to see if there was ground fires in the root system and such. But very quickly it evolved to monitoring weather patterns, doing day flights, actually starting to experiment with bringing equipment in. So our drones are looking at bringing in chainsaws and hoses and shovels and actually providing oversight to where we need to move crews because of not we, but where the operators need to move their crews, because based on weather patterns and where things are going to jump to, and oh my gosh, there's all of those base important services will be done in large part by drones, which saves immense time, manpower, money, and such. In 5 years, we'll start to see a bit more pervasive, delivery utilizing drones. But I think it'll take up to that long at a consumer level for things to unfold. If for no other reason, there's just so many other areas that are more critical and important to address than just that pure delivery. On the military side, the air dominance is 100% now going to be about unmanned aircraft because you can just you got a lot less weight, a lot less cost. Much more data transfer that's happening all over the place, and so you'll see that on a security level. Just your everyday security, whether it's schoolyards, whether it's storage facilities, whether it's production facilities, whether it's energy facilities, those will all be manned by unmanned devices, primarily drones. Your entire security industry, security guard industry will be drone-based industry, as an example. And the list goes on. But that's in 5 years from now, drones will just be an expected part of our life, like an iPhone.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much for coming on the channel. I appreciate it. Can you tell everyone where they can find a little bit more about Dragonfly?
Thanks. Well, thanks for having us. You run a great show, and so we're at draganfly.com, which is DRAGANFLY.com. That's DRAGANFLY.com. And by all means, check out our site. Our ticker symbol is DPRO on NASDAQ. And, reach out. We'd be happy to talk to anybody anytime that we get a chance, and we appreciate the interest in your consideration.
Awesome. I'll leave all those links underneath the video. Thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, so thanks, Dan.
Awesome. Thanks.